We wrote one about a gymnast who had autism who wasn't a part of the same classes that most of his grade was, and how like people always underestimated his abilities because he like was diagnosed with autism, but he actually was like a junior Olympian gymnast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Voice for You podcast, where we empower the leaders of today and tomorrow. I'm your host, Jeshwant Vana. Today, I'm joined by a young leader in our community. She is what one would consider a student leader and a policy advocate dedicated to equality. She is the founder of Veda's Care Closet, now known as Edwardsville Care Closet, which provides essentials for students in need. And also launched Pads for Progress with the I Support the Girls movement to combat period poverty globally. She's also worked as a U.S. Department Justice intern with global affairs. Her work has definitely not gone unnoticed, as she was named a 2025 Coca-Cola Scholar. Leading her community and her world through public policy and fighting for equality, she is Miss Veda Kommineni. How are you doing today, Veda?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining the podcast. I'm hoping to get a bunch of words of wisdom. I know, obviously, you are super involved in your community and a perfect example of what a leader, especially a youth leader, should be. So I'm super excited, and thank you again so much for agreeing to the interview.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is so nice.
Thank you. But before we get into the interview, tell me a little bit about yourself, your hobbies, your passions, and who you are as a person.
Yeah, for sure. So, like you said, my name's Veda Kommineni, and I just graduated from Edwardsville High School. I've lived in the Edwardsville area my whole life, and I'd consider myself a very type A extrovert. So I love anything that has to do with people. I have always enjoyed going to school, I guess as much as you can enjoy going to school. And I've busied myself with tons of extracurriculars. And through that, I've discovered that I'm really passionate about speaking out for the injustices women face, particularly period poverty, like you lightly touched on. And that's been a huge passion of mine. In addition to that, in high school, I was super into journalism and involved in our school's journalism team and yearbook and magazine. So I used to write and design for that. I think that's pretty much it. I also play tennis at the varsity level, and that's brought me a lot of my friends.
Definitely. Obviously, from one journalist to another, the work out here is hard, for sure. Not hard, but it's rewarding. It's very rewarding, talking to new people. Obviously, like you said, you're a type A personality, which, is good, especially for the journalism field. Yearbook, I know they do a lot of pictures, especially high school yearbook, like maybe middle school yearbooks, all right, elementary, high school. If you have a bad yearbook, the seniors that year will come for you. They will be cutthroat.
Yes, for sure.
Definitely. But, before I get into my interviews, I usually ask a, more lighthearted icebreaker question. And before we started recording, you did mention that you recently started working at a ice cream shop. So this question perfectly fits. I've been wanting to ask this question to for an icebreaker, but the thing is, I don't know people that actually know ice cream flavors like that. So if you could describe yourself as an ice cream flavor, what would it be and why?
Ooh, okay, that's a really good question. So I work at an ice cream shop called Clementine's, and it's a local ice cream shop. It's only got, I think, eight different parlors, and it's known for its really weird flavors. So I think if I described myself in one, we have a flavor called strawberry balsamic white pepper. Yeah, I know, that's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. Some people really love it, some people really hate it, okay? I don't even know where I lie on it, but basically, when you first taste it, you just get the typical strawberry flavor, and then the balsamic, and then the white pepper kicks in. And I just think every time I read that sign, it is such a weird combination of flavors. But some people really love it, and I feel like that's the type of person I am too. Throughout my whole life, I've always fit into a variety of groups, and you don't expect them to all come together. I'm an athlete, I'm a student, I'm low-key a nerd. I also do all these, I'm really outspoken, and I'm not very shy, which is what you'd expect out of maybe a typical nerd. But I was also a really good athlete, and I was on journalism team. So I did all these different things that you don't expect to coincide well, but they do, and they make up who I am.
Definitely. Just because I don't even know what the line for being a nerd is myself. I think it's just the fact that we have Indian parents and we are pushed, to
Def-
much as we can. Because, like, a nerd, when you say nerd, I think of like Dungeons and Dragons, playing like locked in, more quiet, but you can still be smart while also being outspoken like yourself. Like I wouldn't say I'm a nerd, but I would say like because of my upbringing, we are pushed for, more success in our communities and stuff. But that's definitely, every person is unique in their own way, and that is definitely a way to put it. What is your go-to favorite? What's your go-to flavor of ice cream at Clementine?
Okay. We just had we have a really good birthday cake.
Oh,
Like if you have sweet tooth. Yeah, and it's got like chunks of birthday cake in it and it's so good. Yeah, that's probably mine.
do y'all have any like caramel flavored like flavors?
We actually have two. We have salted caramel cookies and cream and salted cracker caramel. Both
Okay.
of them.
I don't know. My go-to is basic, but it's like vanilla with drizzled caramel on top and the sprinkles. Can't
Good for you.
can't go wrong with that. Last time I had ice cream, like my friends got ice cream. I didn't actually have any ice creams, but I told my friend to get like the gummy worms on his, so I could just eat all of them.
Totally fair.
It's ironic, but I do have a sweet tooth myself. It's it's ironic because one, I mean, obviously I'm Indian, so, and then two, I don't like chocolate. I've never been a big chocolate guy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's ironic and all, but we move. I'll eat gummies any day of the week though. Really?
Yeah, I'm definitely a chocolate person
Okay.
any day.
Okay. The only reason like my favorite chocolate bar is Snickers just because of the caramel, not even because of the chocolate.
Okay, at least you like one of them. I'd say that's a win.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, back like when I was younger, I wouldn't eat chocolate, but now I've been like opening up. I will eat anything. I just won't eat eggplants. I can't eat those for the life of me.
Me neither.
It's bad. It's bad.
It's okay. I totally get it.
Definitely. But obviously, like you said, you are you have graduated high school. Once again, congratulations on graduating high school.
Thank you.
Definitely. So, what school have you committed to, and what about that school made you want to commit there?
So I committed to Johns Hopkins University, and I'm going to be studying either international studies or public health, or maybe double major. It just kind of depends. Johns Hopkins was really appealing to me because of its location. And while some people may not love the Baltimore area, part of the reason it was so appealing to me was because I still had the privilege of going to a top 10 school, one that is really highly praised in the world of research, but also I'm able to be close to DC, which has always been one of my goals since ultimately I want to go into politics. So being close to DC was really important to me. And I also think Hopkins pushes a lot of research even in the humanitarian fields, and that was something that was really unique to me because you see a lot of pre-med students or just STEM students in general doing research, but it's not something that is as highly regarded if you're a humanities major, but it's still just as important for humanities related issues.
Definitely. Obviously, you are a Hudson Scholar for Johns Hopkins, and like you said, when someone says Johns Hopkins, it's usually like medical. It's the best medical school like there is. So that low-key intrigued me too, because I was like, oh, you're like, I was reading your bio, I was like, oh, you're committed to Johns Hopkins as a humanities major, and obviously with like public health too, that still is the health field. So mixing health and humanities together, that's low-key what I've been looking at recently, because I am a rising senior, so gotta make the decision soon.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I've always struggled with that a lot because I feel like from a young age we're really boxed into either being like a STEM person or a humanities person, but I definitely felt like I fit both of those boxes.
Exactly.
I was always pretty solid at both. I wouldn't say I was much better at one of these fields than the other, but at the end of the day, I think I want to write policy, and so part of the reason I wanted to study public health was because I want to write like healthcare policy for women, and so I felt like that would give me a good background, and also it helps that Hopkins is #1 in the world for public health and international studies, so that was a really great bonus.
Double major, top school for that. It's a win. It's a win, and obviously, like you said, it's in Baltimore, DC area, and pretty much if you want to go into like any policy related stuff, DC is you go to. That is, I mean, it's the capital of America, so it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. A lot of sense for sure. So, did you like make this decision to go into like public health like in high school, or did you always like you said you were like STEM and humanities? So how did you like figure that out?
Okay, so I'm not really sure. I think from a young age, I always wanted to be a doctor. I think as most like young Indian kids
Yeah.
do. But my mom actually like had grown up in a family of doctors and was really urging me to like find my own path and not just be a doctor because that was the narrative that was being pushed on me. And I think even from a young age, I exhibited a lot of traits of like leadership and just overall, I loved helping people. Like, it didn't really matter what. I loved finding solutions to people's problems or just things in general. And I knew that I wanted to do something where I was working with people daily and just trying to help them out wherever I could. So probably until 7th or 8th grade, I was set on being a doctor. I wasn't sure what type, but like that's something you figure out. And then I guess around the pandemic, I got pretty into politics. Maybe we all went through a phase like that at some point just because of the things that were going on in the world. It kind of forced us to be aware, and I had all this time that I wanted to spend like learning about the issues that our generation's facing. So I started learning a little bit more about it. And then, you know, I got back into school. I didn't have as much free time, and I just kind of forgot about it, I guess. Basically, what happened after that was I became involved in a political action committee called She Votes Illinois. And that's when I started really looking at the policy that was affecting women and groups like that, or like minority groups in general. So when I started like really delving into that policy, I realized that I would love to write this policy or advocate for it. So that kind of sparked that interest.
Definitely. You know, everyone has a long story, like a good story. Because if you don't have a story behind what you're doing, then it's not really passion. It's just like, oh, I'm doing it for cash grab or something like that. Which is,
Yeah.
you know, having that story is definitely good. And like you just mentioned, you know, everything that you just said plus extra did lead you to the fact that you are now, obviously, like your shirt says, a Coca-Cola Scholar.
Yeah, I thought I'd be on theme.
Okay, because I was like, is it a coincidence or did she like purposely wear that or?
No, actually, okay, this is so secret, but I actually wear this as a pajama shirt because I'm not like I just don't wear this in public.
that's
But
fair.
I was like, maybe I should try to look ultra prepared for this. So yeah.
Definitely. It's trust me, the whole thing is this is all casual, you know, it's just two people having a conversation for sure. But I was just like, she's wearing a Coca-Cola shirt. This has got to be the biggest coincidence of all time. Yeah, definitely. But like your shirt says, you are a 2025 Coca-Cola Scholar, and for many reasons, like you are a massive leader in your community, such as you started doing work as a part of, you know, for your community during the pandemic itself in 8th grade, because my pandemic year was 7th grade and you're a year older, which means that would be your 8th grade. And in 8th grade you did start Veda's Care Closet, or now called Edwardsville Care Closet. So where did you get the inspiration to start this initiative?
Yeah, so originally my school, what kind of happened was there was an issue with our school policy. So when the pandemic hit, essentially what happened is the free and reduced lunch program that our school had implemented years prior, I think during the Obama administration, that policy was removed. And because we no longer had lunchtime at school because we were only coming for half a day, now all these kids that were supposed to be getting 2 of their 3 meals, so breakfast and lunch, 2 of their 3 meals from school were no longer getting either. And so a couple of community members had like decided to help volunteer and like give them some lunches, but even with like a lunch, you can't survive off of a meal a day. And that's kind of when I learned that I think it's roughly 13% of my town's population fell below the poverty line. So they qualified as free and reduced lunch receivers. So I think at this point, what just kind of went through my mind was I would open our pantry and we had a ton of snacks that I didn't eat. I'm a really picky eater, and so my mom would buy all this like whatever, just trying to get me a snack that I could take to school, and I didn't like them. So I basically started smuggling them out of my house, and I would put them in my locker. And so I put them in my locker and I left a little sign that was just kind of like a take what you need. and it was really tiny, and I was really scared I was going to get in trouble with like our school. And eventually, like, people started taking it, and I would refill it every Friday. And one day, one of my school administrators kind of picked up on it and called me down to the office. And I got really nervous because I thought I was getting in trouble. And it was honestly, I think, my first time being in the principal's office. But all that happened was they sent me to the social worker, who loved the idea and kind of wanted to make it a bigger deal. So we had this closet in our school, and so from that day on, we spent like every day for the next 2 weeks cleaning this closet out, and it was a massive space. And so we cleaned it out, and that's when we decided it would be called Veda's Care Closet. Initially, she wanted to call it Veda's Care Closet because she wanted to show like other students that it was a peer-driven initiative, because that sometimes makes all the difference, especially there's so much stigma surrounding childhood poverty, and sometimes it's easier to feel like you're being helped by someone your own age rather than an adult. Yeah, for sure. So we kind of started that together. And then the next year I transitioned to high school, and we didn't have nearly the same space in the high school, but we did end up building like a little closet type thing. And so we stocked our stuff there.
Definitely. That's a crazy backstory. What? I got in trouble once. When anyone gets pulled down to the principal's office, it's usually a bad, like, it's scary. Well, I can definitely see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you get like pulled out of class for that, or?
Yeah, I did. I was like in 8th grade math, and I was getting pulled out of class, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, that would have been scary. You know, sometimes I forget that everyone had different like for my COVID year, I was straight up just online. I didn't go to school at all. Everything happened from this desk, like right here. I think I spent more time playing PlayStation during class than actually paying attention in class.
And that is totally fair. Our district actually gave us the option to either do completely online school, or we did a hybrid schedule. Yeah. I opted into the hybrid schedule, which like was fine. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I know they did the same thing with us too. I know a lot of people I knew, most of my friends did online. That's probably why we did online too, but there was hybrid for my school too. And then going into 8th grade, it was mask all year. So annoying it was, because I haven't seen one of those masks in a long time. My mom used to make like, you know, personalized masks too, so like we have like grizzly masks around the house.
Oh, that's so cute. I know, I was just helping my parents clean their garage, and I found like a stash of masks because people thought that they were gonna run out, and so I guess we stocked up. We had like 4 boxes, and I was like, what are we gonna do with these?
Ours was made out of cloth, so she like because my mom like used to have like a sewing business and stuff, like not a sewing business, but she like sews for fun. So she made like masks with like cloth that she found, and it's just like you just wash them and then.
Yeah, we had a couple of those too, but nobody in my family can sew, so we bought them from somebody, but yeah.
Oh, definitely. You know, pandemic was a hard time for everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously with you had hybrid, so you still had some social interaction, but there were people like that had no social interaction whatsoever. It was through something like this box, like.
Yes, exactly.
It was a hard time for everybody, but the fact that you were able to, you know, take initiative on that, especially, and even get like, what the thing is like, baffles me is that the school took out the free and reduced healthcare for y'all, like the food, yet they were the ones that helped you start all this up too. So like, was there?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I'm not really sure about the specifics on the policy, but I think it was just a cut in funding.
Okay.
Like, so I think they really wanted to help, but they couldn't do it. Also because I think the free and reduced lunch program was very much like an Obama administration thing.
Maybe.
So I don't remember, so that started getting cut from all sorts of places, and it may have just been a coincidence that it happened during the pandemic, but like that was when people needed it most, since people were losing jobs and couldn't go to work all the time. Yeah, they were actually really cooperative and really loved like this project, and we actually ended up getting, I want to say $1,000 of donations within like the first week. Dang. Yeah, we put out our Amazon wish list for different items, and like it was like almost entirely bought out in like the first couple days.
The power of the community now, come on.
It definitely was. Like, people were really eager to find ways to help, and it wouldn't have happened without them. So, yeah,
Definitely,
definitely.
definitely. Do you know how much you've raised like in total since the pandemic?
Ooh. Okay, so we don't typically collect monetary
Yeah.
donations. I probably want to say in like the past 5 years, we've done maybe 6,000, 7,000, but typically we prefer to collect actual
Yeah.
necessities. That way, like, we're also kind of focused on sustainability. So if you have old clothes that you want to donate and they're in good shape, we will take them and we will repurpose and like wash and give them out to other students who need
Def-
them. Or if you for some reason don't need your feminine hygiene products anymore, we will take them and we will give them out and things like that. We've had a couple of times where, like, one lady just had a son who was allergic to peanuts, but her favorite snack was like some trail mix, and so she had like a subscription to this trail mix thing, and they'd send her like 30 pouches a month, and she didn't need them anymore because she couldn't have them in her
Exactly.
house. So she donated like 200 things of trail mix, and like we repurpose things like that. And if we do receive cash donation, what we end up doing with it is we make peanut butter and jelly sack lunches for the homeless or the unhoused in our area, or we buy snacks that kids are wanting. So
Definitely, definitely. Well, if you, I might have some old unused clothes here. I can send a care package from Memphis to Edwardsville. Maybe. I definitely love to help. That's crazy, crazy.
yeah, thank you so much. Maybe if you finally clean your room, you'll find
That's also true.
some
That's
secret
also
goods.
true. That's low key true. No, definitely. I have way too many clothes in this room. But obviously, with Veda's Care Closet, now it has rebranded to Edwardsville Care Closet. So, how did this like? Did you just like one day it was like, oh, make this like community level and just like rename it to the Edwardsville Care Closet, or
Yeah, so I think part of that is I was seeing more negatives to it being named after me than positives. And I just, I didn't really particularly enjoy all the attention from that. And I think the other part of it is that we are almost at 3 locations now. And because we're in the Edwardsville School District, and eventually like, I was just kind of trying to look to the future. Like, we just had to elect new officers to take this over because I'm probably not going to be managing the care closet from Baltimore.
exactly?
So part of that is like, want it to feel more centered in our community and for the officers to take pride in this organization and not just think of it as my organization forever, but it's rather theirs too.
Definitely, definitely. That actually leads perfectly into what my next question was gonna be. I was gonna mention that not only are you in, Edwardsville High now, but you have multiple extra, y'all have opened up to multiple other extra locations. So how did that, what were the marketing strategies that went behind that and like the techniques to like branch out into these new areas?
I actually think it was quite simple being in the area that I'm in. I think Edwardsville as a whole is really giving and is ready to put money into the community or the well-being of students or just people who need it in general. So the people in my town really made this possible, and there was never once that I really received a ton of traction for simply wanting to help out where I could. And I also think that people understood that this was a genuine cause and I had genuine motive. And so anytime I proposed this, or if there was another student that was interested in doing something similar, I just made sure to give them like the full rundown of what we were doing, how we did it, and that made it really simple. So I don't know if there's a particular way we marketed per se, but it's just that every community needs something like the Care Closet, whether you see it or not, because there are always going to be students who fall close to the poverty line or sometimes who just need some extra support. Honestly, we had a lot of students that I didn't expect to use the Care Closet use it, and ultimately that's what it's there for. There should never be a reason that a student has to come to school and worry about anything other than their education. And in an ideal world, that would be true. But for a lot of people, it's not, and they have to worry about problems happening in the house, or how they're going to afford dinner, or their job after school, or how they're going to pick up their sibling, and all sorts of things. So we've had people ranging from, oh, I need pants for my chemistry lab because I had so much going on last night and I totally forgot to pack them. We've had kids who used the Care Closet from that, to students with disabilities in our school who may have just had like an accident and need a different pair of clothes, who use the care closet for that. And then of course we've also had low-income students who may need clothes to take home. So it just ranges from a variety of different populations, and my community has been really eager to help out with that.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Like, helping the community. Even, I know a lot of situations where, like you said, there are a lot of people that need clothes and just in dire situations, which definitely works. But you did start this initiative during the pandemic, and I'm looking at my I can count. I can count. It's been 5 years since the pandemic really hit. And, obviously now from the pandemic, it was all like, less contact and all that. But now you're able to, actually interact with people. So have y'all started any extra initiatives along with the care closet rather than just, the care closet? And if so, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Great question. I think one thing that we have started doing since last year is our peanut butter and jelly packing initiative. So I think I lightly touched on that. But essentially what we do is we gather all these supplies, and with any donation we've received, we purchase everything we can. So like we do the peanut butter, jelly, the bread, the fruit snacks, the cookies. Like we try to give like a larger meal, I guess, than people may be used to. Basically, we pack all those sandwiches together. We kind of make it like a group bonding type thing. We do an assembly line, we play lots of music, and it also makes people feel like they have a purpose. Like, it's really important to find something where you feel like you're actually making a difference, and because it's a tangible difference you're making, you're literally using your hands to make a difference, it makes a lot of people feel good. On top of that, it's doing a lot of good for our community. So we are really, we're borderline with a community called East St. Louis, which tends to struggle with poverty because I think they were a victim of redlining, a long time ago. But anyway, we have lots of groups there that need the support. And so we've worked really closely with, I think, 7 different homeless shelters to bring them these peanut butter and jelly sack lunches. And we try to do them every other Friday, if not just once a month. And so that's an initiative that we started that wasn't initially a part of my group's objective, but I'm happy to take it on because ultimately it's just serving more people, and that can never be a bad thing. I think the other thing we've done is we call them period packing parties. Basically, we work really closely with I Support the Girls, and we get makeup bags that have been donated by women in the community, and we pack them really tightly with period supplies. And so again, same setup as the peanut butter and jelly. We just get in an assembly line, we work together, we make these, we educate on periods and just the menstrual cycle in general. And then we put these packs together and donate them to women's shelters, domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, wherever needs them.
Definitely. Obviously you can't do peanut butter and jelly packing with hands-on, making a assembly line playing music during the pandemic, unless you want to do it over call. And you could just hand it through, quick.
Yeah, through the phone.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, oh my god, that would have been hilarious.
But obviously you can't do all that, but it still focuses on the same objective which you do have at the end of the day. And with more hands-on activity, you're able to unlock new levels, which is truly a good thing. And speaking of the period packing parties, these are all perfect segues into what my next question was gonna be. So basically, you are a part of you started your own initiative with I Support the Girls called Pads for Progress. So how did you get in touch with I Support the Girls to be able to build a new initiative like Pads for Progress with them?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I was really fortunate, and I grew up in a town with an I Support the Girls affiliate director. So typically I Support the Girls is only in larger cities, but this professor at the college near me actually ended up getting in contact with them maybe 10 years ago and started a chapter here. So as I'd grown up, I had maybe kind of heard about it, but I think when I was 11-ish is when I really started developing an interest in I Support the Girls. And I also just really loved the affiliate director. Her name is Dr. Alicia Alexander, and she gave off the best vibes. She was extremely supportive of women and basically has committed her life to improving the lives of other women. And I really aspired to be someone like her. So I started working with her. She used to host period packing parties in, I think, this boutique and I'd been to like 1 or 2 there, and I was just helping out. And it was just also a way for me to engage with my community. Typically, period packing parties harness all sorts of women. So anywhere from like ages 9 to 90 were coming in to volunteer here. So I was meeting all sorts of people. I met my state representative at one of these. So yeah, so it was really interesting, and I really loved it. I definitely felt like very purposeful when I was there. So eventually some time passes and Care Closet starts, and she wants to support the Care Closet. And so she's actually the one who provided us with feminine hygiene products for the Care Closet. Yeah, so she worked really closely with us to ensure that we always had menstrual products. And then in 2021, a bill, I think it's House Bill 156, was passed in Illinois that mandates menstrual products in every public school. So once this bill was passed, her and I started working closely together to make sure our schools were stocked with our products, because we were finding a lot of schools to be non-compliant with this law. So we started working together, and then eventually I asked to kind of be more than just a repeat volunteer, to be an intern, and she made that happen for me. And so I got to do that, and with that she encouraged me to pursue my own initiative, which I ended up naming Pads for Progress, where I ended up donating, I think, a couple suitcases worth of menstrual pads to India.
Okay, that's nice. Like, I did forget to mention before I asked that question, you are the only intern with I Support the Girls, definitely.
Yes.
Getting the internship, that's like crazy because of all the work that you have done. Did the House bill just come, ironically just come at the same time, or did you work with that initiative, or?
So I did not work with the House bill. My work with the House bill started maybe a year and a half ago, kind of to work on the non-compliant aspect, but the original bill was passed by one of our representatives because it was
Okay, so it was just perfect timing. It was pretty much obviously like with the work, and then they passed the bill, and it's like that that bill connects with what I'm doing.
Yes.
Like one big thing. Yeah, for sure. But obviously you still are a big part of I Support the Girls and Pads for Progress. And did you other than the suitcase to India, were there any other initiatives that you've done personally with Pads for Progress?
I think a lot of my work with Pads for Progress was trying to deconstruct the stigma around menstruation, especially in like Indian culture and in Hinduism in general. If you didn't know, in a lot of religion, not just Hinduism, periods, like when a woman is on her period, it's seen as being really dirty. So like one example is in Hinduism, you're not allowed to go to the temple and worship while you're on your period. Yeah, because you're supposed to shower before the temple and all that stuff. But when you're on your period, you're still seen as dirty despite however much you shower. And trust me, like, periods are gross. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. It is gross, but it's never going to be correct to label women as being gross for something they literally cannot control. So yeah, while the actual thing may be gross, like the idea or just the cycle is not at all. So like another example is in Jewish faith, like people who are devout Jews can't like lay with their husbands during their period, and you're not supposed to touch your husband while you're on your period. So somebody I was speaking to about this at a period packing party explained to me that if for some reason you were sitting across the table from your husband during your period and you were both really devout and Jewish, you would have and he asked for the salt, you would have to pass it and set it down on the table, and then he would pick it up from the table. You're not allowed to just pass it to him in fear of like your hands coming in contact. And so there's a lot of the stigma and that's deeply rooted in religion. And so I was attending like a cultural school called Balvihar, and so I was working with that group closely to teach them about the stigma that women who menstruate face. So one thing I did was we did a period packing party in the basement of our temple, which was breaking a lot of barriers, and we actually asked the majority of our attendees to be male, because women know, anybody who menstruates knows enough about their period, and hopefully they're not judging other people for their period, because that would not be awfully hypocritical. But yeah, but boys and men don't always know, because they never have to. They can go their whole lives with being ignorant and nobody would stop them. But we wanted to make sure they were being educated, because that's the group that people need support from sometimes. Yeah. And like, the boys in this room are brothers. They're going to be husbands. They're
fathers,
uncles.
all
Like,
that, yeah.
they'll exactly, like they need to know about this stuff. So we ended up teaching them a lot about menstruation, and they worked with us to make the period packs. So we had, I think, 100 attendees. We made like probably 500 period packs. And so that was a really big event too. But yeah, that and the donating pads to India were like
No,
just
those,
the main part.
even with just those two initiatives, those are crazy, crazy initiatives. Obviously, like you did say, in Hinduism, it is when I know, like with the first time you get a girl gets her period, they'd have like Voni functions, which is like the massive celebrations, and then after that, it's just like, oh, you got your period. Like, I know, like with my mom, because I grew up in an all boys household except for my mom. Like, I have a younger brother and then my dad. But I've seen this with my mom. Like, whenever she gets her period, it's like she's sleeping on the couch, and like just that she says like, oh, don't touch me, or like go like take like once if you do, like go take a shower or something like that. It's a lot more serious. And the fact that y'all are able to educate, especially the males, because like as a male myself, I'll be honest, I'm not that intact with how the menstrual cycle works. So the fact that y'all are able to educate the like brothers, the fathers, the uncles, the sons, like, and all of them to be better.
Yeah.
And learn about what is actually going on, because like you said, we can be ignorant because we don't have the problem happen to us. So it's like we don't know what y'all are going through, but with the education, we can always help too. So that those two initiatives itself is more than enough. 100%.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I got super lucky. I was brought up in a family that like my mom has 2 sisters, so she was pretty much in like an all-female household. So I got lucky, and like I grew up with a family that was pretty open about periods and like didn't stigmatize them deeply. And I got involved in like I Support the Girls around the time that I started my period, so I was still young. So I just was really open about everything and willing to learn, and I didn't really let like the religious aspect affect me that
Definitely.
much.
Did you join I Support the Girls like before you joined before you started? Was it like before the pandemic?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think the first time I'd volunteered with I Support the Girls was
Okay.
2019 or 2017. So like I had been volunteering there from when I was little because it was easy work and it was nice. Like we just listened to Taylor Swift and packed all this stuff in makeup bags, and I got to look at the cute makeup bags. And so like I've been volunteering there for as long as I can remember, and I always loved it.
Definitely. I mean, if it's easy volunteering, you're enjoying it, then you're gonna come back, and it's a big deal at the end of the day, for sure, for sure. And obviously, like you said, I can't say if like my family stigmatizes it like crazy, because I did, other than my mom, it's 3 other men in the house, so I can't really speak on the stigmatization part. But there are like societal, especially if you go to like India or something, they play Hinduism like hard, and like at the values, the culture. And don't get me wrong, that's completely fine, but there's obviously changing times, changing worlds, and being a leader like yourself and making this change definitely needs, it shows the good that must come out of society at some point, rather.
Yeah, for sure.
So along with I Support the Girls and your care closet, you also are a legislative advocate, serving as a public affairs intern with the U.S. Department of Justice. This isn't like this isn't no local judge, this isn't the state judge, this is an intern with the federal judge, like Supreme Court type deal. So how did you get this like internship to begin with?
Honestly, so I saw an application that went out for my district of the United States Attorney's Office, and essentially I hadn't realized that it was only for college students. So I just went ahead and applied, and later they emailed me back and like explained like this is just for like students who are in law school, like not even just undergrad, like this is just for law school students. And I really wanted it. So I was like, okay, I totally understand that. Do you have any other internship positions available that maybe aren't as, like, you don't need as much security clearance for, or like you maybe don't need as much knowledge about the law? And so that's how I fell into this public affairs intern. And so basically, in addition to getting to sit in on some briefings and hear about like the cases that they were dealing with, I also had the opportunity to work with the public affairs coordinator who helped utilize like government money to improve the community around us. So one big thing that I did was I helped coordinate the Lights Out event, which promoted like the interaction between law enforcement and groups that had typically and historically been targeted by law enforcement officials. So we were trying to explain how law enforcement can benefit lives, and like that was, part of my job. And so with that, I got a lot of cool experiences. I got to learn about some groups that I had never really had the chance to interact with. Like a lot of law enforcement officials I've never come in contact with. And it was really cool. And so that was the main thing I did as part of that role.
And obviously you are like, you're in Illinois, and most of like the law, like, the US DOJ is in DC. So was this like hybrid, or was this like all online, or?
Yeah, so the DOJ has a branch in I think every state. So mine was in Southern Illinois, so it happened to be close to me. So it was close. It was like maybe a 45-minute drive that I
Okay, yeah, that's
every week.
45 minutes ain't even that bad. Yeah,
No, it's
they have
really...
like in state, especially for Illinois, because Illinois it's like these, like it's like this, and then it's like massive drive from top to bottom. So
Yeah.
it was
Yes,
good that
yeah.
the DOJ, especially since you are interning there. The public affairs coordinator, were they also located in like Illinois, or?
Yeah. Her name is Lauren, and she's like local to Illinois. So.
Okay, that's good. But obviously, with the work that you've done with like I Support the Girls and your care closet, were there any points other than the Lights Out event that you like tried arguing and fighting for as a intern, per se?
Ooh, I don't know. I think that's a good question. Honestly, a lot of my job as an intern, I guess not really my job, but a lot of the unspoken rule about being an intern is just to listen and learn. And so honestly, sometimes it's more of a challenge for me to like keep my mouth shut and just listen. So so I don't have any lawyers in my family. I never really got to see people practicing law, but one of the attorneys that worked for them actually took me down to the courthouse a couple of times, and I got to watch a lot of trials in real life that were very violent, and so I got to watch a lot of different things. So honestly, I wouldn't say I really argued for things. Definitely when it came to planning the Lights Out event, there were parts of the event that I could understand better, like maybe not better, but just differently than other people that were working there just because of my age. Like this was an event to be catered to my age group and like my demographics, so I could understand like what would be appealing and how we would get the people that we really needed to at these events. The whole point was kind of to show that even if maybe you don't have a super supportive home life, or maybe you don't have a super supportive school, like there are people that are looking out for you, and there are people that want to do justice for you and by you. So like one of the things that I really worked with was how to figure out like how to get low income students to this event. So we were like working with our local bus like transit system to figure out how we can get free passes for students, and so things like that. I was just kind of bringing a fresh perspective.
Definitely. Personally, if I was in your seat, I probably wouldn't have been able to shut up, because trust me, I have the exact same problem as you. Like I wouldn't say I'm like a full-on extrovert, but I'm like an ambivert, but more on the extroverted side. Like in school, I am like considered like I'm more quiet, I keep to myself, I'm not trying to play with fire in school, but like outside of school, I start talking like I mentioned, before I had state training this weekend, and I was sitting with my FPLA state team. And there was like, I started talking about how I'm usually like quieter. My state officer coach looks at me dead in the face. She's like, "No, that's not true. You're a troublemaker." I'm like, I guess it's just a different vibe, like anywhere you go. Cause some places, like I said, school, quiet. And then, there, if you told me to be quiet, I don't think I would have. I'll be so honest. It's real. But especially if you're fighting for something especially that you care about, I wouldn't have. But the fact that you're able to sit back and like listen, that takes a lot. Personally, as someone that wants to try doing that more, it does take a lot. 100%. So with the Lights Out event, did you did you make any connections with any of the people that did attend the event and like gain a stronger bond with them?
Ooh, good question. I was doing a lot of socializing, and I can't think of anything in particular. I definitely remember hearing from like one young girl who just explained that she's always had a hard time like approaching her law enforcement. Like we have SROs at our school, so her like designated police officer for her school, just because she's heard like lots of rumors about how sometimes they target people who look like her, and like that was a really frustrating conversation, I'm sure, for both of us, because it's frustrating that we live in a world that's like that's how you associate like law enforcement officials. And yeah, I didn't want to force anybody into anything they weren't comfortable with, but I was just really hoping that we could get her to see that some people one day will look out for what's best for her and people in her school.
For sure. I mean, like the SROs and the law enforcement, they're at the end of the day, they're there to help like protect us. But with the stigma that's been going around the past couple of years, obviously, rather not, get into that. But, with the stigma, that is definitely a problem in today's day and age. And especially with the Lights Out event, that was the main focus for y'all, to make everyone more comfortable. And obviously, as of the person of demographic, were you the only person of of age demographic? Okay, so
Yeah.
you were the only pair of eyes for the demographic that is working. So that's really good. Did you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of an impact do you think you personally made with that event?
Honestly, I definitely do feel like I could have done more. So I'm gonna give myself like a solid 5. Just because I think that was an important lesson for me. I did that internship before my sophomore year, I think. So I was a little bit younger. I didn't really know exactly what I was looking for in this internship, but most of all, I just wanted to like learn how people operate in an office, in like a law office. Yeah, so I definitely do think I could have done more, but I feel like I advocated for the groups that I thought needed it most. So like low income students, and like advocating for their transportation and things like that. So I'd give myself a 5. I feel like that's
definitely.
Nice.
You can always there's no such thing as a 10. You can always do more. There's always pros and cons, 100%, 100%. But other than, your legal work and, your advocation work, like you did mention at the beginning, you are very big into journalism, and one example of that is you serve as your yearbook's editor-in-chief. And I know making especially a high school yearbook, it's a lot of dedication. So what made you want to stick with yearbook for so long, and how did you like rise up the ranks to get into the editor-in-chief? Because that is like probably the biggest position a part of the yearbook.
Yeah, so when I joined the yearbook staff freshman year, I had to like interview to be on it and everything, and I just really loved it. I loved having design freedom, and so I think immediately my advisor picked me out as somebody who is like talented in design, and they were kind of looking for that. So my sophomore year, I applied to be a design editor, and I loved my role there, and it just so happened to be that the editor-in-chief was graduating. And I didn't really know if I had a shot, but I figured I'd just apply and try, and I ended up getting that position. And so from then on, I kind of made it my goal to make sure that we were uplifting and detailing stories that may not otherwise be heard. So that was a big thing for me. In the 2 yearbooks I produced as editor-in-chief and the one I produced as design editor, I made sure that we were putting a lot of emphasis on voices that may have gotten thrown under the covers and may have gotten shoved aside because they weren't like the mainstream voice. And so a couple profiles that my staff wrote that really stood out was, we wrote one about a gymnast who had autism, who wasn't a part of the same classes that most of his grade was, and how like people always underestimated his abilities because he like was diagnosed with autism, but he actually was like a junior Olympian gymnast. And it was, so he's a like crazy talented person, but nobody ever knew because like people just didn't know about him. And and like another one we wrote was how we have a transgender student advocating for gender neutral bathrooms. I think that's been like a heated debate in a lot of schools right now, is whether or not like we should have gender neutral bathrooms or spaces. And so he was advocating for that, and so that was really fun to learn about. And I also I really enjoyed talking to people that I had never really gotten to know, kind of like
definitely that is what journalism is all about. New people, learning their new stories. Obviously, I, as a journalist with the podcasts are basically just the audio version of journalism, like newspaper stuff. So I can see 100% where you're coming from and all that. But a quick side question: obviously as editor-in-chief with the yearbook, what was, your senior year, what was your senior yearbook theme for the yearbook?
Okay, so I probably have one somewhere. But this year our book was called This Is Where It Happens. So the year prior it was called It's All in the Details. And so we, like, my junior yearbook, what we did was we like really delved into like the tiny stories and like the tiny things that you may be missing about our school as we're going through a lot of change. And this year we wanted to do like a very location centered book. So like our school is undergoing a lot of renovation right now. So we wanted to capture like what our school looks like now and the spaces that are sacred to our students now. So we basically talked a lot about the spaces and the things that like kids love. So like the broadcasting closet or the drama department or like the like little videography booth or the tennis courts or like whatever it may have been. We placed a lot of emphasis on that and their impact on the
Definitely.
students.
And obviously a part, you're also part of the yearbook, but you did mention that you're a part of your journal team. So what is the main difference between the yearbook and journal team?
Okay, so for journalism team, basically we compete. We have like a journalism section of the IHSA state competition. Just like sports, you have a like a sectionals and a state competition for journalism. And so basically I was a part of that team that competed and went to state. So we have like all these different categories. I typically competed in infographics design and yearbook double page layout spread, whatever that category is called. And I loved doing infographics. I used to do them all the time.
When you said journal team, I thought it was just like, going out and like part of like newspaper. I didn't actually know they actually competed in.
Yeah,
That's super interesting. What? That's crazy. Low key, might have to start one here now. That would be something
Yeah,
really, really, really interesting. 100%. But along with journal team and the yearbook, like you did mention earlier, you were a student at Bal Vihar, but you now serve as a teacher, fostering a cultural understanding among students. So what is Val Bihar specifically?
Okay, so Bal Vihar is a cultural center for education for Hindu students. And so essentially think of it as a Sunday school, but for Hindus. And honestly, we're actually welcome to all religions and races, but typically you find Hindu students there. So as I was growing up, we learned about Hindu mythology and the Bhagavad Gita and like all the different stories and like how our religion originated. And then after that, once you get to like 8th and 9th grade, you start putting more emphasis on community service, and through the classes itself you would do community service. And then as you get to 10th grade, you start student teaching the same classes that you once took. And yeah, I really enjoyed teaching. I actually loved the community service part way more. I just felt like it was really cool to watch young kids fall in love with community service and helping others. I can't say I was really the best teacher because I'm not sure I really paid attention in my Bal Vihar days, but I still liked it. It was a really cool experience, and it's really awesome to connect with kids who are like mini versions of yourself and like trying to navigate this identity crisis of being like Indian American and figuring out how
No,
to balance all
100%.
of
I mean,
that.
obviously, you are Indian American yourself. I'm Indian American myself. So we both understand, the struggles of, balancing two separate cultures, which, Indian culture and American culture, they are very, very different and vast. So how do you believe you were able to, balance your two cultures and, make it into one and make it into your own identity?
Honestly think that there's never going to be a perfect balance. Like, I feel like I'm always still constantly trying to achieve that. I've grown up in a town that's a small, predominantly white Christian town. So I didn't really get to grow up seeing kids like me. And that's why Bal Vihar was so important to me, was because that's the spaces where I got to interact with other kids who looked like me and hear about how they were celebrating the same holidays as me. I think one important part of my character is I've always been like unashamed of who I am. Like I'm really unapologetic about who I am and what I do. And I think there's definitely a lot of room for self-growth, but that's like, in appreciating my culture, that's one area that I've always been proud of myself in. It's been hard, like, definitely. I've gone through that awkward, like, preteen age where it was embarrassing to, like, speak in Telugu in front of my parents, or, like, embarrassing to, like talk about my holidays. But I got over that really quickly. And I think a lot of my life has been about teaching others how to respect other people. And I think I owe some of that to myself too. Like, people deserve to respect me and my culture as much as I do theirs. So I think another huge part of that is my parents. Like they were always really open with me about any questions I had and just like teaching me how to be myself. And then the other part of it is I've always had great friends, like who were always interested in what I was doing at home, and why I was up so late because I was doing fireworks for the volley, like interested in why I was doing these things and willing to have conversations with me. In middle school, one of my best friends was she was the daughter of a pastor, so she was really, really religious, and we actually had so many productive conversations about our religions and how sometimes they clashed. And like that stuff happened during a formative age for me, so I was just really comfortable with who I am.
How fluent are you in Telugu? Very fluent? Okay.
Very.
Okay. Because personally, I can speak pretty well. I can write. I can sort of write. Like I went to Manabadi when I was like younger, so it was like it's still a little bit there, not really. It's like barely hanging on. I can read.
Yeah, I can't read or write. I can just speak really well. So I know. I'm gonna work on it. Actually, part of the requirement as an international studies major at Hopkins is you have to take a language all 4 years. So I don't know if it would be cheating if I took Telugu, but I've always wanted to learn
how to
write and read.
Actually,
I think so. They have a lot of because they have a lot of South Asian languages because of how big.
Okay, then I guess I'm going to be applying to Johns Hopkins now. He's 100%. No, because
have fun.
I can read. Like it takes me a sec to read, but I can read it. I can speak, but like last time I went to India, right? I started speaking Telugu, and then it was like a 6 or 7-year-old kid. He comes up to me and is like, "You're not from here. Where are you from?" Because of how like broken it was.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Like I've been speaking a lot of Telugu lately because my Nainama's visiting. So that's probably why I with confidence am telling you I'm really fluent right now. If you ask me at another part of the year, I will probably tell you like I'm pretty good. It won't be nearly as confident. But that's another thing is like growing up, like on a deeper level, we are really easily boxed in by both parts of our identity. So I don't know if you've ever read
Yes,
Trevor
I actually
Noah's
did.
biography.
I actually did. That's one of my.
Yeah, so when it first came out, my mom was like adamant that I read it, and I never wanted to read anything my mom gave me. But I'm so glad I did because he writes about how he felt like on the playground. He says something about how he never felt white enough to play with the black kids, and he never felt black enough to play with the white kids, and so he got pushed into this group of like colored kids. And so like I read that super early, and then like we had to read it in 10th grade again. So that type of stuff was really formative for me because it was able to express how I was feeling, but way better than I would have been able to. I think I read it in like 4th grade. So I've always felt like we get pushed into those boxes too, because I remember so many experiences when I've been traveling to India and people have been talking to me and can really quickly pick up that I'm American. Like same type of experiences. Or people in India will try to speak to me in English because they assume I don't know Telugu and they assume I can't speak it. And so like that adds to this lack of confidence that we have speaking our native language. Like you probably are fluent, you just probably aren't confident in speaking it. And sure, over time you lose like some conversational ability just because you don't have to use it all the time. But it's probably also because anytime you can, you probably opt to English more often. Yeah. And so like that type of stuff has been happening to me my whole life. And I just like I've always felt like I was just kind of like a very empty stencil, and like people just kind of colored me in however they wanted to see me or what they wanted me to be.
You know, that's like I never think I'd hear the Trevor Noah biography, because that was I'm not a big book guy, but that is like one of the only books in the past couple years which I actually read front to back with actual interest. Like you said, of how much I personally, you know, obviously I can't relate with like South African apartheid struggles, but you know, I still was able to connect a little bit, and it was super interesting. I didn't know that was actually a required book, because I just read that for fun like a year or two ago. I was planning on reading it again just because of how much like I personally enjoyed it, but you know, definitely. And also with like the Telugu too, like even here, like I go meet family, like they're more fluent than me. I'll start speaking And that's another, like, even with a like family here, it's like I start speaking and then they start making fun of me because it's like they're like, oh shoot,
Yes.
they think I like suck at it. Because even when I speak, like right now, I speak and I stumble my words. Same thing with Telugu, and it's like kind of,
Yeah, and I feel like I have pretty thick skin. Like, I'm not super sensitive, so I guess at the time when people were like making fun of me, I didn't really realize it. But in retrospect, like, it definitely has more of an effect on us than people think, because we're just trying to learn, and obviously we are always going to sound American. Like, we will never really perfect the Telugu accent unless we end up somehow living in India again. And like, we're always going to have a very American, like, whitewashed accent. And it probably would have been a lot better if while we were like growing up and speaking it, people didn't make any remarks to us.
exactly. It's
But
just
that's
the
not what
struggle
happened.
that we all can, and it's good that we have like each other because like we can like talk and like we all have the same struggles and all
Yeah.
that too. But this has been a question I've been asking Amber. What is your favorite part about like your Indian and like Telugu culture?
Ooh, good question. I don't know if it's maybe like if it's specific to Indian and Telugu culture, but I think something I really have liked about Eastern culture that it took me a long time to realize is our closeness with our families. Like, it's really common in basically any non-Western culture to have your
Yes.
parents come back and live with you, or to just have like this extended family. And both of my parents did a really good job at preserving their relationships with like their cousins. And so I've grown up really close with, I guess, my second, I don't know what they are, my first cousins once removed, whatever. But they're all just my cousins to me. Like, one of my favorite people in the world is my mom's cousin's daughter. And I just think like the emphasis on family and how tight-knit we are has always been my favorite part. And the fact that we come together for Thanksgiving and stuff, like, people from both sides of my family know each other and will hang out and like we'll have Thanksgiving all together.
No,
And that has
definitely.
just been such a
I'm pretty
blessing.
tight. Like I call them my cousins, but they're like my dad's like like family friends, like my dad's college mates and like college roommates. No, that they're basically like
Yes.
my family. Like we're all, I have like technically like family from all over the US, but I'm super tight with all of them. I love all of them like dearly. They're truly, because most of my family, like I don't have a lot of family that lives in the States per se, so they're, my family. I still talk to all of them on a very common basis. I actually had a conversation with one of them the other night, just like randomly just start talking, and then you just yap and yap and yap. But it's always so nice to have that closeness bond with anybody, because you feel like included and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, low key, if someone
Yeah,
asked me
for
like
sure.
what my favorite part of like my Indian culture, I wouldn't, because that's what a lot of responses I've been getting is like, the closeness, the bond the community has. I low key would have started saying music and like movies. I am a sucker for Indian movies. I am I am a sucker.
Yes.
Do you have
Yes, totally me too.
yeah, I am a huge sucker. Like you can't tell me about like, you can't get me to stop listening to indie music and movies. Do you have a favorite Telugu hero by chance?
Yeah,
Okay,
Allu Arjun, all the
you can
way.
ask anybody, any of.
Although, wait, that may not be politically correct because he just
Oh, that
like
happened.
something just
Don't worry
happened.
about that. That
Something just
was
happened with him.
like last October. Yeah. You can ask
Yes.
any of my friends,
Yeah,
any
I
of my
do.
family. You can ask anybody I know. I am the biggest diehard Nani fan there is out there. I am I am a
Okay. Yeah.
diehard. I watched Hit 3 first day, first show.
What was that movie he did with the like 5 women, like the
Nani's
grandma
Gang Leader
and
is my
the
favorite movie of all time. That is my favorite movie of all time. It is like, it's my go.
Yeah,
That
it was
is
such a
my
good movie.
favorite Nani movie, my favorite Telugu movie of all time. That movie is the reason why I am such a big Nani fan. I love that movie
Yeah.
with a passion. I will glaze that movie 24/7.
That it was real.
I've
I
seen it.
probably have seen it
Yeah,
like
I've seen it
3
like 5 or
times.
10
So
times.
yeah. Or I've seen
Jersey. I need
the
to rewatch
cricket
Jersey
one.
again. Trust me. You
Jersey.
just tell me.
I've seen that like at least
Yeah,
six
you just
times
tell me a
because
Nani
my brother
plot.
loves
Trust me,
it.
I'll get it. I'll get it off for you. I'm just, because I saw Hit 3 first day, first show.
That's crazy. I haven't
Yeah,
watched
I
that
won't.
yet.
Don't worry. Don't
Don't
worry.
spoil it.
I mean, a lot of people are saying it's like bad. I personally, I think it might be a little biased, but I loved it. It was a really good movie. Uh,
You
my
definitely
brother's
are,
not
but
that big.
that's
He
okay.
said it was fun. It was good too, but it's like a lot more gore heavy, more action heavy. Did I mention more gore heavy? More gore heavy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
especially
I'll
that
be.
second
I'll beware.
half for sure. But I really feel
Okay.
like without any spoilers, the gore was justified. It genuinely was justified. Especially, you know, tying back to your
Okay.
advocacy work, you watch that stuff, yeah, you're gonna feel like that is it genuinely is justified in my opinion. Because
Okay. I'm looking
hey,
forward to it.
it's
I'll
on
probably.
Netflix
Maybe I'll
now,
watch it
so
tonight. We'll see.
yeah.
Huh.
Definitely, but
Okay.
I'm a big sucker for Indian movies, in Indian music. That's go-to for me. That's my favorite part. But also like the closeness and the bond for sure, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
All
don't
of
you
that
can't
is so
forget the food.
valid.
You can't forget the food.
Of course.
Sucker for any Indian food, whether it's north, south, east, or west. Indian food is amazing for sure. But with all these accomplishments, with your work with the I Support the Girls movement and, your care closet and, your work with the US DOJ, obviously, like your shirt says you were named a 2025 Coca-Cola Scholar. So how was that process for you? And how was that experience, traveling down to Atlanta and meeting 149 other Coca-Cola Scholars?
Okay, so the process for me was honestly at the very beginning very stressful. The first part of the application is it's really simple and it's easy. The second part is when you have the short answer, the essays, like all the letters of rec. And I made this mistake that I thought was like going to cost me my chance. So I was applying and what happened? Oh yeah, I had like copy and pasted the questions into a Google Doc and I was writing them in the Google Doc because the software they use is but yeah, so I was using Google Docs and I guess I had forgotten to scroll down whenever I was copy and pasting. So the day that the questions are due, I'm putting my answers in and I'm like 30 minutes till the deadline because I had just gotten back from school and I wanted to like sit with my dad and just like copy and paste with him for moral support. So I'm scrolling down and I realized that there is a whole section of questions I have not answered. And like the rest of my responses, I spent so much time and I put so much effort into like, and I was just like heartbroken. Like I was like, oh my God, I just cost myself my one and only chance. Like I'm like on the verge of tears, like having a breakdown, like the room is getting hot. Like I'm just like, oh my God, I just almost just lost my life. And so whatever, I'm just kind of like typing. I'm not checking capitalization, punctuation. Like I'm just typing because the last thing I want to do is miss the deadline. So I just kind of like hope that something works out for me. I look at some other applications for like other scholarships that I had started. I'm like copy and pasting for my resume. Like I'm just panicked. And I get it turned in on time. And the email that I qualified to be a regional finalist actually went to my spam. So for a minute, I thought it was like a prank. And I was like, oh yeah, I know I didn't qualify. And also they're really unclear about when the stages are. So I had no idea when I was going to get this email. And so I was just like, oh my God, this cannot be real. And so I saw it and I was like, there's no way. So I immediately jumped up and I was like so grateful and so thankful that like the work had paid off, but also just that I was able to pull it together like in that last second. And then once I got to the interview stage, I felt a lot more relaxed. Like nothing could have been more
yeah, like you
stressful
said, you're
than
a
what I
type A
did in the
personality,
stage
so the
before.
interview stage was definitely a piece
Yeah.
of cake.
Yeah. And so the interview stage was really good for me and I got super lucky. I had 3 interviewers. Dr. Jamie Williams was one of them. And then I had 2 past Coke scholars. And both of them were just really, like all 3 of them actually, were really attentive listeners and made the whole experience so comfortable for me. I really felt like I got to express the truest version of myself. Like they asked me what I did over the weekend and I was just like, we were just talking about what I did over the weekend. And it started out so simple and it was real, like it went by so fast. And I think I got kind of lucky with my interviewers because one of my interviewers actually had worked on a menstrual equity campaign. And so we immediately bonded. Like she asked me so many in-depth questions about it and it was so nice because I felt really seen in my work and I'm sure she felt maybe similar. I definitely hadn't done nearly as much in the field as she did, but it's nice to talk to somebody else who knows as much about that as you. And I just loved the interview process and talking about the weekend in Atlanta, like it was definitely unforgettable. It was a lot of socializing. Despite being an extroverted person, I definitely felt my social battery getting low. So I was not always like the person who stayed in the lounge after, but I loved getting to know everybody. Like some of the Coke scholars have really amazing life stories and have had to overcome a lot of challenges to get to where they are. And I'm just incredibly proud of them
No,
for
you're
getting there.
you are in the room, obviously 50, including yourself, of the top high schoolers across the nation, top leaders in our society. It's crazy work. And obviously, I know I've heard a couple of stories from what of other people have said about how the room went crazy after seeing Vivek Ramaswamy's face on presentation or hearing his name, because he is a co-scholar too. So, that is, he is also very big in politics, as everyone knows. So, that's also crazy. But it's just like the fact that you get to a crazy
Yeah.
network of past Coke scholars too, who are doing crazy things now too. It's wild.
Yeah, it is really cool because I think the networking aspect is a huge part of it. Like, you just have this group of people that is going to make sure that you are on the right track for the rest of your life. And unfortunately at Hopkins there's not a lot of a lot of Coke scholars, but I've already gotten in contact with one of them and I'm really excited to
Definitely. I
see
know a
what
lot of the
happens.
ones this year, it's like there was some acronyms like Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Princeton, and MIT, SPY, something like that. I don't know what the acronym is, but that's where a lot of students have committed to.
Yeah.
And seeing, yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I know that there's like 13 scholars at Stanford. 30? I heard 30 at Harvard. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a lot of Harvard, a lot of Stanford. Personally, I didn't hear any Princeton, Yale, or MIT.
Okay, I think I know like two of the people I was friends with there. I don't think I even got to meet everybody just because there were so many people, but two of the people there I know are going to Yale, and then I met one guy going to Princeton. I think there's one girl going to MIT. I saw her on Instagram. But yeah, so I'm sure that there's a good spread, but I do think that there's like a lot going to Harvard this year. So that's really exciting for them. They have each
Exactly.
other
And
to,
obviously,
do
like Johns
hangouts with.
Hopkins is a top 20 school, especially for like public health and like the health scene too. So definitely that's still a crazy school, like for sure. And obviously you're not added to a crazy network. And like you said, you're already in contact with some of the past Coke scholars that are at Johns Hopkins, I believe. So that's good for you too. More networking and new probably lifelong friend. You know, 100%. But in your
Yeah.
personal opinion, why do you believe you're a Coke scholar?
I think honestly, being perfectly candid, I think it's because I've never spent my time doing anything I wasn't passionate about. I think everything I've ever done, I really cared about, and I think people are always going to see when that's true. And like when I talk about some of the things I've done, I think it's perfectly clear that I'm really passionate about it, and I've always wanted to speak out for people who maybe can't do it for themselves.
Definitely. I mean, obviously, with like the work that's a lot of thing a lot of people have been saying. Passion. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're not gonna want to, push into more, and it feels like actual work. But when you're passionate about something that you care about, work becomes play. Well, not like play, but like
yeah, for sure. Like I've always enjoyed all the days that I spent designing graphics for nonprofits or figuring out like doing like my period packing by myself. Like I've always enjoyed doing things like that too, and it became like relaxing for me. Like I'd spend my free time doing that. And I think honestly another part of it is just a little bit of luck. Like I think I got lucky with who my interviewers were, and I bonded with them really well. And I think the other part of it is there are plenty of people who get weeded out by the Coke system that are probably very passionate about what they're doing. But if for some reason you don't happen to have the same stats or the like outgoing sociable personality, like you can get weeded out, and that is really unfortunate. And I do feel for them because I have a hard time believing that they aren't nearly as passionate about the same issues that we are.
Everyone's passionate about something, but you gotta have personality, and for a scholarship, especially if it's like a essay, you gotta be able to write a good essay. You have to be able to speak well. You have to be able to connect well to get a scholarship, especially this prestigious. Like 0.15%. I remember it was actually a post. I remember it was a post that you reposted. The stat of like your school saying less than 1/6 of 1% students like nationwide.
Yeah.
I was like, that low-key is right, because 0.15 is 1/6. That's a crazy stat. And obviously, there's a reason y'all got that stat, like I've mentioned. The work that obviously the work that we have discussed, the work that you have put in, the passion that you have, the drive, and the willingness to do more than what meets the eye, for sure. 100%. 100%. And to round out this episode, the Voice for You podcast is about empowering the leaders of today and tomorrow. So what is some advice that you can give either me or the audience or anybody in general who's trying to be a leader in their own community and have their own voice heard through their act?
I think one thing is, mind you, I'm still learning. I'm definitely still learning. I've got ways to go. But one thing that I've realized is you can't spend your time on things you don't actually care about. You can busy yourself in as much work as you want, but if you don't actually enjoy it, you're never going to feel like you're making a difference. I never doubted for a second that I was making a difference, no matter how small it was. I always knew that I was changing just the life of one woman or maybe 100, but I knew that at least one was being changed because I really cared about every single bit of work that I was doing. So I guess in a world where everything has to be about passion projects, at least make sure that your project is something you truly care about, and not just to do things for the resume or for the awards or whatever it may be, because people are always
like
going
I've
to
mentioned,
see that.
passion is one of a couple of things that everyone has been saying. Passion is what drives you to do what you want. Passion makes you move forward, and obviously yourself, you're passionate about a woman's equity and equity in general too. So 100% agree with everything you say. Leaders like that is what we need in order to strive for a better tomorrow. Slogan says empowering the leaders of today and tomorrow. But once again, Veda, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast, spreading your words of wisdom, your story, your passions, your drive to me and the audience members. It really does mean a lot to me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time getting to know you, and I wish you the best of luck with
I'm
college
scared.
apps and next year.
I'm scared as hell, but we'll get through it somehow. But thank you so much. And to the viewers,
Totally
thank you so much for watching till the very end. Remember to follow the Voice for You podcast on Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, I'm your host, Jeshwant Vana. Thank you so much, Veda, for hopping on the podcast for this episode. And we will see y'all next time. Thank you so much.